time comes when silence is betrayal. And I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghetto without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
We have this speech at our home, and we listen to this speech and have listened to this speech and listened to it today with our children on numerous occasions so that they can understand what it is that we are attempting to do when we are not with them. The other part that I'll say before I introduce the speech itself is that as an elected official, it is often difficult to get people to see the bigger picture, to see how policy impacts the lives directly of those who don't have the voice and can't speak for themselves. And so if I am never ever elected again, I promise that I will continue to do exactly that, exactly what Dr. King admonishes us to do in this speech, and exactly what so many others have died for in the past. And so I call upon those ancestors of mine and yours to support this event with their spirit and to really press us and press upon our hearts the need for us to do more than we think that we can do, even though it's difficult what we are doing. And so with that, I'll just tell a very brief story of this speech. We have had the pleasure, my husband and I, to walk with on this side of the dirt some of the great leaders during Dr. King's time. We have been able to meet some of the key strategists that sat in the room, similar to probably this room, with Dr. King, and to come up with these strategies as they began to address a humanistic issue that was affecting not just black people, but it was affecting the moral fiber of America. And so through that, we have been enlightened beyond the historical texts that we've all read about. One of those gentlemen who I invoke his spirit today has transitioned just recently. His name is Reverend James Luther Bevel. He has just recently passed. And in his passing, we were able to meet with several people, and Andrew Young was one of them, and speak to him directly. C.T. Vivian, we've met with him and spoke to him directly. Bernard Lafayette, who is still traveling around on this planet trying to teach the issue of nonviolence to people, we have been able to speak with them directly. And this speech comes out of a pressing issue that Dr. King struggled over. It was not easy for him at that time to come out, as it is written in the books, and to speak against the Vietnam War. He was considerably warned by this government that if he took a national stance against the Vietnam War, that they would expose him and his private life to his family and to this nation and to the community. And he chose to expose himself and to still stand against the war. He took a trip out of the United States at that time and went to vacation. And Reverend Bevel, who had been given this charge to stop the Vietnam War, went to talk to Dr. King, who was the spokesperson at that time for SCLC. And he traveled out of this country to Jamaica to visit with Dr. King from a vision that he had received, Reverend Bevel had received, to tell Dr. King that he needed to stop the Vietnam War. When he arrived in Jamaica, some of the other persons a part of SCLC thought he had lost his mind, thought that they didn't have the power or the authority to stop the war at Vietnam. But he went anyway and spoke to Dr. King. And when Reverend Bevel returned, Dr. King did not say that he would stop the Vietnam War and speak out. By the time he returned to the United States, Dr. King had made his mind up that he would stand and he would deliver this speech to stop the Vietnam War. This speech is the result of a conversation that two men had, not in this country, but on a vacation, that really charged them with a moral responsibility to deal with this issue. And so many books have been written historically about this, and many of them do not tell the true story, and the context is never left to the people so that they will know all of the background information. But as we live, we shall also die, and someone else will start telling stories about us. We want the world to know how we feel and how we stand on the issues while we are alive. And so I stand today saying that this speech is reflective of where we are in the world today. We are watching, and we are listening, and we are hurting, and we're crying for the lives that are being lost in the Gaza Strip, in Afghanistan, in Iraq.
The words of the late John F. Kennedy come back to haunt us. 5 years ago, he said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." Increasingly by choice or by accident, this is the role our nation has taken, the role of those who make peaceful revolution impossible by refusing to give up the privileges and the pleasures that come from the immense profits of overseas investments. I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo